And since 1997, I'm a freelancer and working in Java EE project, Java SE projects. So usually just in Java and JavaScript space. Some references, so you can find my blog, Twitter, and from time to time, actually 3 times a year, I deliver workshops at Munich Airport about Java and Java EE. And projects related to the presentation are Anhydrator, SPG, and X-Ray. It's all open source, all Apache, so I will show sometimes some code from these projects. And I also use JavaScript a lot in my commercial projects. The problem with this is I'm not allowed actually to, or not allowed, I have no idea. I signed several NDAs. It is really hard to say whether I can talk about such projects or not because of these strange NDAs. So, in this book, I describe the X-Ray project, is a little bit related to JavaScript. And in this project, I describe a pattern called fluid logic. It was implemented on Rhino. It is the predecessor of Nashorn, but it works with Nashorn even better. And yeah, these are the workshops, but these are actually the contents I would like to talk today. About JavaScript to Java communication, Java to JavaScript with Nashorn, some ideas about automation, fluid logic, agents, and templating. So what fluid logic means is encapsulation of algorithms. Agents is some interesting stuff, where Nashorn helps me. And templating is a little bit more boring than agents, but still useful in projects. By the way, you can ask me questions in real time. So I don't have the back channel via Skype, but it could be a little bit disturbing. But you can use an airhacks channel, ERC, which is preferred, or at AdamBean or airhacks at Twitter. So whatever you like. Should be, so this is my Twitter stream. As you can see, we have 2 listeners on or 2 attendees at IRC. So let's start with the topic. So this was actually the very first slide, first and last slide. So let's start with the actual content. So what I have here is actually stock NetBeans. So it comes with interesting extension called terminal. So you can open if you like. Just search for terminal and terminal, and you can open it. So this is what I actually did. I could use the regular terminal, but actually it does not matter. And what Nashorn provides is something interesting. So I will show you right now. It is actually unbelievable what you can do with this. And what I created a file which can be executable. And on this purpose, I have to define a shebang. This is instead of bash, I'm using JavaScript, actually Java Nashorn, as a scripting environment. And in order to be able to execute this, I will have to make the script executable. So let's do this. And let's implement here something. I would say print hello Java day. So and hello Java day. By the way, the Nashorn output comes from the minus full version flag, which you can set in or set off as you like. So somehow exciting. What's a little bit more exciting, you can have variables, of course, and can say message hello, and say instead of hello, I would rather like to use the message hello, and should work, you see, the same way. So you can have a string substitution. This makes a little bit more interesting for what I show you a little bit later. So this is should you already give an idea. And Nashorn is then ECMAScript, I think 5 something implementation. So it is actually JavaScript what we're doing right now. So a little bit exciting, right? So what you can also do, of course, you could define function, great conf, and say return Java day. Of course, you could also call the function here. great conf. So somehow exciting, but what also works, and these are the Nashorn extensions. I could do something like this, and if I execute this, nothing happens because the result is stored in a variable called out. So I could say var out. So as you can see, here's the output. So at this point of time, you should on the other side in Kiev just shouting and crying and say, what a great story here with Nashorn, right? How usable it is. So this is so far what you can do with Nashorn, and now is the question what to do with this, right? So what I showed you right now, you can define functions, you can replace parameters, like this is actually the case in Bash or Z shell. I can execute commands. It's a little bit more interesting. I can store the output regular out in out and arrow in error, and I can print it out. And yeah, the question is, what's the story with this? So let's see whether there are any questions. So there are no questions. And no questions. So what's wrong with you? I hope to say, oh, nice. If no questions, then at least statements. So you can say, okay, Nashorn is pretty good or very good or whatever. So I would like just check something. Watchdog. Oh, it is not up. Let's see. Okay, this is the right directory. What I do right now is a little bit surprise, so you have to wait for a few seconds, and probably you have already an idea what you would like to do. If this doesn't boot in the right time, I have a fallback solution in the internet, but I think this would be more interesting and more useful. What I'm doing right now, I'm booting Docker in Vagrant. What you could also do, you could boot Docker in, how it's called, boot to Docker. This Vagrant is perfect. And what Docker does, actually, it comes with, oh, it's already interesting. Let's see whether it works. Nice. So now, Vagrant SSH, and let's start my virtual workshops registration Docker PS. This is what I wanted to say. Nothing is running, but I could say right now workshops remove run. So now it started workshop container, which is a Java EE application, and what happens here is actually Docker comes with JSON API. And I think the entry point is container JSON. So looks nice. So what I would like to do to play with this a little bit. So I can go here and say, it was nice, but let's do something useful. So now I can say var command, and I would like to curl this or wget, doesn't matter, and just would like to print the command here. Wait a second. $exec command. And say this is raw output. And say $out. So, and say print raw output. War output. Raw output. So. Let's try this. You see? It starts to be nice. So what we did, we access from Nashorn, which runs as a Java actually, interpreted by the JVM backend Docker. So you can say, oh, this is actually nothing exciting, but what you can do with, because it's JavaScript, you can parse the raw output. And what you get back are all containers. And this is actually no more a string. Let's try this. So it's an object. And what kind of object it is? It is an array of objects, you can see. So what I could do for each container in containers, print container, and let's do something useful. What we have here, for instance, the container.id. As you can see, the ID is printed. So what I can easily do, I can implement an interactive, no containers, this is what I wanted to comment out. I can implement very easily an interactive Docker shell. So I have the ID of the container. And of course I could say names is also an array. So I would like to have the names. This would be container with names. And I think I need the first one. And plus, let me see what we have here. There should be an image or something. Is there an image? Names, image, yeah. This is capital, so let's do names and container names 0 and container dot image. As you can see, the ID, the name, and the image. And of course, what's nice with this, I actually used to provision my applications in Jenkins, and because it is a mix of system commands and script, there is no external dependency. So this script runs equally well on Mac and Linux, which was not always the case with Bash, because there are some issues with arrays and string arrays, whatever, and delimiters. But this is actually pretty stable, and this is, I get a nice support from NetBeans or IntelliJ, and even syntax highlighting, debugging, and stuff like this. So let's see with any questions. If no, we actually covered more or less JavaScript a little bit and automation. So no questions here, no questions here. It means silent audience, which just enjoys Nashorn. Okay, so what we of course could do, we can initiate post with -x post and start even new containers from Nashorn. But on that note, what's even more exciting is, or more useful for us for streamline Java projects, let's do call it differently with Java JS. Yes, and chmod plus x with Java JS. And this is just a template which is expanded. So what I would like to do is I would like to create a new project, which happens to be a Java project, a Maven project, and I call this naslib, Nashorn library. And naslib looks good. And to make, I would like to check, Java version, I would like to have Java 8. And the build final name, and I will call it naslib. So why I'm doing this, it will just emit a jar with the name naslib jar without the version, so it is easier. So I will just clean and build and see whether it actually works. So I have naslib, target, and naslib jar, so it looks good. So what I can do right now in the with Java, I can set it the class path. So I can now say, hey Nashorn, use please my jar, and this is naslib target naslib.jar, and this was actually the reason why I hard-coded the name of the project. And let's create an object here. Or what you can do is, of course, you can, I think it's called arc, var arcs. And if we print this, these are all invocation parameters, arcs. If we print this object, I'm interested in what is actually the object. So we can say hello, no, with Java. What was it? With Java, A, B, C, 3 parameters, and I got ABC back. But what I'm interested in, what is actually this? Is it give me the class of the object? And as you can see, type arrow cannot call, so I cannot access the object. So I will try with gas, with class, undefined. So and I'm really curious what it actually is, this JavaScript object. By the way, what we always can do, I can print it out, of course, with for each. It works equally well for JavaScript and Java objects, arc in arcs, and just can print it out, print arc. So let's do whether it works. So I can output this, but I'm really curious what it actually is. So then I will create an object and call the object inspector, nice name, inspector, and call the method gadget. Public static void gadget, just for fun, doesn't matter. Object O, and what I would like to see is here on the Java side, O, get class, get name, and say here, class, this is the class. And what we would like to see, I would like to use the class. This class. So, and then I would also like to have get declared, get methods. Fields are not that interesting. I would like get methods, all public methods, and just output the methods. So, and now I would like to call from Nashorn this object and pass the other object back. So how to do this is relatively simple. So let's just wait a second. So we could say here var inspector, and I think it was com airhex naslib dot inspector, and I hope it is static. So we can now say inspector.gadget and pass the arcs. Class not found. I think I forgot to compile. Com airhex naslib, com airhex naslib. Let's see whether it's better. Lots of methods. So I could call this methods and let's see what happens. What is actually the class? And the class is native array. So what we get back is a native JavaScript array, which can be, of course, converted to Java array. So if I say Java 2 and I put the arcs, I will get a Java collection back. As you can see, this is a Java array. Okay, and this is actually useful. This Java, you can convert JavaScript objects to Java back and forth. So what we learned here, we can access not only the arguments, we can access the environment, and we can define in a class path and use libraries, and use these libraries or script these libraries from command line using Nashorn, which makes it particularly interesting in enterprise project for portable installation of stuff, configuration, or monitoring. So what I showed you earlier is that we can access with JavaScript and JSON, with Nashorn, REST and JSON. which what I did in past and monitored Glassfish, which emits JSON as a monitoring protocol. So with a view scripts, we can see whether there are any exceptions in production or rollbacks. So it's a really, really useful. And you can decide whether you would like to have external dependencies or just go without any dependencies and implement everything in JavaScript. So I hope we covered this JavaScript to Java a little bit. Let's see whether there are any questions. No questions and 3 tweets. Could you implement a tail that reacts to a pattern? I think I could, like a question from Twitter, but not during the session. And another, I can see how, yeah. It is not like I'm trying to how to say, to replace something. It is just first, it is a nice hack to implement something quickly, like monitoring. And so I would see some less hacky sessions in a second. Implement something like, for instance, installation or monitoring or configuration or some ideas in the moment. And I don't think I'm replacing the UI. Also, I will show you an interesting example in a second, which is used a lot in production. So thank you for the comments via Twitter, and shame on you, lazy chat. Usually I got more questions from the chat than Twitter. So now this is not all. What I could also do is more interesting. I could, for instance, say something like this. But if I try instantiate this, I should get an error. And I would just deactivate this. It's just too much noise. Cannot construct runnable with the past arguments. They do not match of any constructor signature. And no wonder, because runnable is an interface, right? But what you can do with Nashorn, you can implement the interface and I can pass the method. This is actually interesting. So I can say function run and say print runnable should work now. So we have an instance of runnable, which has an interesting package. And I could say now runnable.run. So what you can do is to use, should work now, as you can see. This function should be anonymous, could be anonymous as well, because of SAM in Java, single abstract works. And of course, what we could also do, we could say, this is a JavaScript function, and I could pass the function into the executable and run it again. And you see, it still works. So this is pretty powerful. So what it means is you can implement with Nashorn Java interfaces. On the JavaScript side, it might be interesting if you're scripting the application. On Java side, it is even more interesting. And this is what I would like to show you on the Java side, and we'll live this first idea. So how to interact from JavaScript to Java, and see what there are any questions. No questions here. IRC is still lazy, and Twitter is great. So back to code. We have no much time. Also, I could do longer today because you can just set off the beamer, and I could talk forever, right? So. Let's create Java to JS project, which is going to be a Maven project. And I would like to have Java 1.8. And I would like to start. The easiest possible thing is, I guess, to use a unit script JUnit, sorry. Unit test, JUnit, and here we go. Package com hex nas hex, or nas hex is nas hex, better. And the question is playing test. So initialize. So I think nas hex is even better than airhex. So before. So, and how to initialize, what you can do, what I would like to show you right now, how to access Nashorn from Java. And this is the Nashorn scripting I'm using for DevOps like actions or for monitoring installation. And this is what I show you right now. I'm actually using in the real world applications. So there is an old API, almost forgotten, Script Engine Manager. And here I can get the engine. If you use JavaScript, I think it could be even lowercase, you get the engine back. And I would like to remember the engine. And let's see what it is. So now I would write a real world test. It means no asserts. But the test coverage is great. So test. So, and what we will see, as you can see, it is Nashorn scripting engine. So we could make it a little bit more sane and say assert true this engine to get so forgot an import. Do it again. Okay, seems to work. So, and Nashorn is assert true callable, which is pretty exciting. I will show you in a second. Instead of call invocable is yes, invocable. So it is invocable. What it means, I'll show you in a second. And it is also compilable, which is interesting. By the way, I forgot to mention, whatever I'm doing right now, it comes with Java 8. No external dependencies, which are particularly interesting to me. As you know, work should be small and lean, and deployment should be fast. So, and Nashorn is absolutely compatible with this. So now let's play with playing with invocable. So playing with invocable, how to do this? So what I will have to do, I will have to create an invocable and cast Nashorn to it. So this is required. And now I can do something crazy. So I can say, do the same, invocable, get interface, and this is interesting. And the interface, I would like to have runnable interface. Runnable, and this shouldn't be null. By the way, we are not test driven, right? Because everything is green all the time. Our true agile developers would like to see a red bar first, what they saw half bar, and then fix it. So let's fix it. The problem is there is no script, so nothing implements here. So to make it happen, we can now say invoke this engine eval, and what I would like to evaluate is a function run, and say here print Hey Duke. Does not work. This is a pity, and I think this is the problem. Still not. Function run, print hey Duke, not equals eval. Too much red. So now it looks a little bit better. So this is green, and it should also work this way. It didn't, but it doesn't. And this is, I think, bug. It is already reported. So I had a chat at Java 1 with the Nashorn engineers, and they told me this should work, but it doesn't here. So you have to name the function as the runnable. So because runnable has a method called run, we have to use the same here. And this is actually great. So what we do right now is, what we are able to do, we are able to implement Java interfaces from a string, effectively, from a JavaScript script, and runnable on the fly. So let's see whether chat or Twitter is excited in a second. So Twitter is absolutely not excited, and IRC also not. So what's wrong with you? This is a great story. So we have an interface runnable implemented here from Nashorn. So let's do it even more interesting. We pass some object to Nashorn and can execute the objects. Accessing Java APIs. So this is actually no more needed. And we could pass here the bindings. So this engine put, let's say, A, B, and let's say, what else we could also use, for instance, this engine put message so now what we can do, we can actually access the objects here, and what we get back should be an int. Integer red file. Assert that red file is 42 and a little bit casting and a little bit importing. Oh, this is a double. So we have the red bar again, so which is exciting. And now it should be almost green. So what we expect is a double. So if you have any questions, and this is what we actually did in enterprise projects. What we needed to, we needed something like a flexible formula interpreter, and we used back then Rhino, which was a little bit slow, And Nashorn is is really fast comparing it to Rhino. And this is what I actually did. And the developers already thought about building an own language with Antler, and with Nashorn it was a lot easier and cheaper to implement this. Also, what we can do, we can also access the message here, and this is, let's do it in the next, this engine eval, and say message. And of course, what you can back is the string. Let's try this. A string. And the next use case, what we did a few years ago, so we implemented, the idea was to provide an extension to our Java EE projects, and the Java EE was there were facades, EGB facades, which need to be scripted or scripted extended, and the customer thought about implementing this with frameworks like OSGI to make the small bundles replaceable. What we did instead, we exposed the whole API to a scripting engine and stored the script in a database, and this was actually far more stable because at the event of exception, we could replace the script, and more stable because there were no class loader problems. It was just self-containing. Okay, I think the most interesting part we covered. You can implement from Java. You can get Java interfaces implemented with Nashorn, and you can pass to Nashorn Java objects and access them from the script. And both are really useful in enterprise projects. So let's see. Any questions? Oh, 2 tweets. Okay. Thank you. JavaScript to Java. So we have this. Java to JavaScript automation was with Docker, and fluid logic is exactly what I explained to you right now. And now a little bit of agents, and I will show you some prepared code I have from my projects. So agents. The problem is if you would like, imagine a distributed environment, and you would like to move code from one node to another, and you can implement an interface, let's say runnable, and serialize runnable and pass it over the network. The problem with this is, of course, the class doesn't move. So you will have to implement your own class loader, URL class loader, or you will have to, for instance, implement a marshaled object. What the marshaled object does, it transports the data with the class, but this is painful and could be problematic with firewalls and whatever. And what I did several times already, I implemented the interfaces, let's say runnable, with Nashorn, and then you only have to move a string across the wire. So there's no serialization involved, nothing. And recently, in a project with JSR 107, which just happens to be a JCache and implemented by Hazelcast, I just stored all these scripts in a cache as a string. They moved automatically to all the cache nodes, and on each cache node I knew, oh, this interface is actually a runnable, callable function or whatever. Actually, it was predicate in my case to implement a filtering on collections, and I could very easily and very robustly distribute interface instances over the network, over the wire. And with Java, plain Java would be a lot more complicated, and really the nice story was no external dependencies, just plain wars and Java EE. This bin validation, we did it several times. So for what Nashorn is great, I'll show you just, let's say we have here a workshop entity, number of attendees, coffee volume, beamer access, room size. So we organize a workshop in case we have a lot of attendees, and the coffee volume is equal to the attendees, and the attendees are smaller than the room size, and the beamer exists. And this is, of course, stupid to put script in annotations, but just show you the possibilities. And in the validator, I would just fetch from the annotation the script and evaluate the code. More usually, what you would do, you would like to load a script from a database and validate, for instance, very flexibly, or you could change the validation rules without restarting the server, right? So let's see whether it actually works. So this is a bin validation unit test from Java EE. And now it validates the workshop instances with scripts loaded from a string and stored in an annotation here. Of course, this hard coding is stupid. It's only good for conferences. In real life, you would like to store the script outside the application to make it flexible. So this is what we used a lot. And actually, I do it in some of on my blog, for instance, for spam prevention. I don't like to restart the whole blog or whatever if something changes, and I don't like to implement my own rule engine. So what I did, I implemented a filter as a JavaScript function, and I can upload it per REST to at any time I like, and change the validation rules. If the script breaks, I catch the exception and just say true. There is as if there were no script. So it can be even robust, or it is robust. So embedded Nashorn is what we actually saw right now. Nhydrator is an interesting project, and I show you a use case of this project. You can go to to GitHub and download it. It's an Apache project. It is actually used in a few commercial projects, but the generic time is open source. And I show you right now, this is a common problem. What I would like to do is, I have here, let's say, I have here a JSON file, and the JSON file is in source test resources. It is source test resources, and there is a languages JSON. So headers, language, rank, this is the headers, and then we have languages. Java is number 1, C is number 2, COBOL is number 3, and everything else is number 4, right? The problem is, what I would like to do is, I would like to convert the JSON to Java flexibly, and this is actually what Nhydrator does. Not only JSON, it can convert rows, CSV, or whatever. And this is the setup. So what I implemented is a scriptable source. The input is languages, but the problem is the JSON can vary. And in fact, what this actually is, I just changed the structure. This is usually methods, and this is performance of the methods. This is actually the output from software like X-ray monitoring output. So I can, for instance, I would like to convert this to CSV and have nice charts, right? How to do this? So what I did instead, the scriptable source. What is the scriptable source? It's a Java 8 class. Implements source, and what source does, it creates from something an iterable of rows. And what rows are is actually, it's a row, a table row. It comprises columns. So a source is iterable of rows, right? You only have to know this. And we have one scriptable implementation. And now you can imagine what happens here. So I'm just reading the script, and I'm reading the source. And there is somewhere we have list load. And as you can see, I set the input and rows to the script. And the method query, what I do here, I say this load, and in the load script, the conversion between the input and the output happens in script. And what it actually means, I can very easily implement the conversion. So this is Nashorn, embedded Nashorn. So I get the Java type. You can also express this way, Nhydrator in row. I print the output and then say JSON.parse. So I have the JSON object. Then I'm interested in languages, and I would like to have the language length. And I'm iterating over the languages, and I create on the fly the column. So if the structure changes, I only have to adapt the script and don't have to recompile the code, which is somehow important here, because Nhydrator is stored in Sonatype Central. And this would be not that nice, to change the core framework just because the format changes. This is also useful. It's just an example. You can download it with the Nhydrator project together. And also interesting. So if you go to my blog, it's not my blog. This is my. There is our most popular entries here. And the problem with these entries is, so number one is usually the blog itself. And number two are the searches and some entries, this is actually crazy popular. And at one point of time, I would be no more interesting to have, just this entry here on the top. So what I can do is I could filter them out without restarting the blog. So how to implement such a thing? And this is actually, I create a very simple tool with JavaFX. And we'll start and show you this. So this is the default script, and this is from key and values an entry, and hash map entry is created. So I can say here Duke is the URI, and this is the number of hits. Let's say 10 or 10 in German. So and what I wanted to do is I could now say return t.value. It needs to be smaller than 10. Let's see, validate, and I get false back. So if I say 9, it passes. So what I'm able to do, I'm able to test my filter expression for the ranking and filter out entries. For instance, say t.value. I think it's JavaScript. Then can say contains Duke. Because in JavaScript, there is no contains. And so I can evolve the scripts. It validates not contains Duke is false. Hugo. So whatever. This is a JavaScript application, and I could implement here any filter expressions I like. And if I click save and they are submitted via RESTful web services, just this expression, and it's immediately active. Okay, I get some questions from Twitter. Whether it is a good practice to reuse form validation from backend and frontend. It is a practice. It really depends on the context. This is best practice or not. In the past, we had problems with the performance of Rhino with this. Nashorn is crazy fast. In fact, someone at Java 1 approached me, and he develops robots, and he told me that they are able to run Nashorn they are able to invoke Nashorn functions 50 times a second, which is remarkable. And I can only say I didn't perform any stress tests, but this is really really fast. And according to Nashorn engineers, Nashorn is as fast as the Google V8. There are no limitations in Java objects, so you can just invoke them. Yeah, there are no limitations, no known invocations so far. Not invocations, limitations. So we have 10 minutes to go. So I would like to show you a little bit more code. So this is actually what I do a lot. Backup is also interesting. So what I'm able to do, backup, I'm able to connect to my blog, and from the Hazelcast grid, I'm able to store all the statistics on the hard disk, for instance. This is also Nashorn. You see, everything is actually very, very lean and thin. And I think Nashorn predicate is actually what I implement a lot. So to show you how it works. So we have get engine by name JavaScript. We get the Nashorn back, and I have somewhere a predicate here. Get an interface predicate, and I get the interface back. What predicate is an interface from Java 8, which has one method test. So you might ask, why are you talking so much about the predicates? Because predicate is what is used in the filter expressions. So what I can do right now, I can say, I would like, there is a nuke, fluke, and a duke. And what I would like to do is to filter them and say hackers.stream filter get predicate dukes only, collect and collectors to list. And this get predicate goes to source test resources and search for a script with the name dukes only. So what I should be a script here. Test packages, no test packages. It should be Other sources, Dukes only. And as you can see, this is the implementation of the predicate, and it only returns the Duke. So this is actually the implementation. I can also load on the fly optimistic and pessimistic, and this is also what Integrator does on the fly. It can load filters, mappers, whatever from Nashorn, so you don't have to recompile the code. Okay, any questions? No questions here. Extremely lazy today. So, do you have any questions? Okay, then no, I don't leak. Java 6 was removed, but why? Nashorn needs Java. I don't need this one. Wait a second. Oh, I'm in on Docker. Sorry. So the problem I have is the following. So I have a bunch of workshops, and 3 times a year, as already mentioned. And the problem with these workshops is the date changes 3 times a year and needs to be consistent. So in the caption, in the form, and several times in the text. And I was not able to maintain it by hand. So if you look at the workshops, you know, there's, or we go to the internet. So we'll see the date here, and the date is somewhere else, and it has to be also in the form. And I was not able to maintain it properly, and my wife went crazy because someone registered to the workshop in December, and she got an email for March or whatever. And I say, okay, we could create everything from the whole workshops, Java server faces, application JSP, which is actually stupid because they change 3 times a year, and there's no need, you know, to create for such a application and dynamic application. So this, I would like to keep it a regular HTML project. So, and what I actually implemented, if I invoke here gen, wait a second. As you can see, it regenerated all the pages, and what's interesting here is open. There's always a pair. You see HTML JSON, and what I did here, let's open it with, for instance, Atom. It's just a JSON object, and it corresponds to HTML object. And the question is how it works. And to show you how it works, I would like to show you the script. So, and just a script. As you might suspect, this is Nashorn again. And this is a fully fledged static page generator. So what it does, it needs just arguments, the input and output, and then searches for corresponding HTML and JSON pairs. And the most interesting stuff here, it loads, this is a Nashorn extension, Mustache, the JavaScript Mustache library. So what I can do, I can use in my templates whatever is provided by the Mustache or Handlebars libraries, or I could use here Lodash, or how it's called, Lodash, or underscore, whatever I like. And this is a mix of Java libraries and Nashorn. So because file IO from Java is really convenient, I use the Java IO, NIO, and I use Nashorn for working with the templates. So, and if you go to Mustache.js, you will see there's actually a really interesting library. Mustache, yes. And I use the JavaScript. I can just download the origin library, loaded it for loaded it from Nashorn from command line, and I'm able to use all the syntax described here. And this is actually what happens. I invoke in one point of time mustache render, and if you look at this, there is somewhere mustache render. Exactly, mustache render content parameters. So I'm actually using the same templating what you usually use in HTML5 in browser on the server to pre-generate my content. So, and I didn't use this here for my blog in the first place. What we did in a project multiple times, we used this to generate, emails, confirmation emails or invoices of stuff like this. It was really convenient because you get very flexible templating mechanism, and you can even work very tight with web designers because they already know the technology. And because I know it works, I just hacked this for my blog. And actually, it is an open source project, and is just as on my GitHub account. If you go here to SPG, stands for Static Page Generator. Is it here somewhere? Or repositories? SPG. And on Twitter, I saw someone mention this, that it implemented with SPG. It generated, I think, Glassfish or JBoss XML configuration files, which is also an interesting use case. So I could talk for hours with this. This is really Nashorn and Rhino previously. They helped me a lot in projects, so I saved lots of time with this. And I never had a project just with JavaScript, but combining Nashorn with JavaScript from time to time is really interesting in enterprise, particularly in enterprise projects. And because Nashorn comes with Java 8, I don't have to justify why I'm using Java 8, because usually we have it already. And yeah, this was actually my ideas I'm using in my project. Let's see whether we covered everything, but I think we were pretty efficient. Even templating was covered. And yeah, so thank you. We have 2 minutes to go. So thank you for watching, and see you at in projects, of course, GitHub, Twitter, or chat or whatever. And what I forgot to mention is what I do one time a month. Each first Monday of the month, it's the same, Uri, what you are watching right now. I have Airhacks QA. So if someone asks me a question, I usually answer it interactively on the Airhacks QA session, so I can save time. And there we have already 8 questions for the next show in November. So if you will, I just allow 10 questions because we have only 1 hour time. So thank you for watching, and see you probably in Munich and at my workshops. I just would like to see whether there are any questions. Oh, very good. Get one. I take it back. Chat is not lazy at all. Someone asked me, is it possible to run Node.js apps with Express or any other framework? On the answer is, of course. So it is not that enterprisey. So this is why I didn't mention this. But if you look at avatar.js, this is what you are searching for. This is the Node.js on Java EE. So. Can we get code examples from the conference? Of course, but I just have to remember not to delete this. This was what I implemented. I will submit to the conference, and everything else is on GitHub. So the all examples which were already prepared, SPG and so forth, are on GitHub. And what I implemented today, I will submit to the conference. By the way, it's a really great conference. And I know the organizer, he approached me on Java 1, so this is actually why I really joined this. So thank you for watching, and I hope it was helpful to you. And this is actually not that esoteric to use Nashorn in enterprise projects. The last look, okay, no questions. So we are very on time, which is remarkable for a conference. So thank you for watching, and see you soon. Bye.